Today we're going to be looking at how to create a stem and leaf plot with decimals. A stem and leaf plot is a way to show or organize data from least to greatest value. And here we can see that we've been provided a data set which tells us the recent test scores on a math test that was out of 10. Now, in order for us to create our stem and leaf plot for this data set, as we can see up top highlighted in yellow, our first step is going to be to order the data from least to greatest. Starting out, we can see that our lowest data point here is 5 7/10. So down below, we're going to write 5 7/10. Then we have 5 8/10. Then we have 6 3/10. Then we have 6 4/10. Then we have 7 7/10. Then we have 7 8/10. Then we have 8 2/10. Then we have 8 4/10. Then we have 8 7/10. Then we have 8 8/10. Then we have 9 3/10. And lastly, we have 9 7/10. So now that we've ordered our data from least to greatest, we're ready to go ahead and actually start creating our stem and leaf plot. So over on the left-hand side here, we're going to create our stem and leaf plot. So we're going to make a T-chart. And then on the left-hand side of this T-chart, we're going to have our stem. And on the right-hand side, we're going to have our leaf. And now I'm sure you're wondering, how exactly do I split each one of these data points up into a stem and leaf? And to show this, over on the right-hand side here, we're going to pick a random data point of, let's say, 8 4/10. So whenever you're splitting apart a data point into a stem and leaf, the leaf is always going to be the last digit of that data point. So here, the last digit of this data point is a 4. So to the left of the 4, we're going to write a line straight down to split this data point apart. And the leaf is on the right-hand side. So the leaf here is going to represent the numbers in our tenths place. And then on the left here, we're going to have our stem. So our stems are going to represent the numbers in our ones place. So now that we understand how to split apart each one of these data points into a stem and leaf, we're ready to move on to step number 2, where we're going to list our stems. And we're going to list our stems in order from least to greatest. And our lowest data point here is 5, and our highest data point here is 9. So that means that our stems are going to range from 5 to 9. So we're going to write them over here in ascending order. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So now that we've listed our stems in order from least to greatest, we're ready to go ahead and start listing our leaves for step number 3. So for step number 3, we're going to list our leaves, and we need to do so in order from least to greatest. Starting out with our data point of 5 7/10, well, that's going to have a stem of 5 and a leaf of 7. Then for 5 8/10, that's going to have a leaf of 8. Then we're going to move on to our stem of 6, and our first data point here is 6 3/10, which is going to have a leaf of 3. And we want to make sure that this is in line horizontally with our stem of 6 so that they line up properly. Then we have 6 4/10, which is going to have a leaf of 4. Then we're going to move on to our stem of 7, where we have 7 7/10. So that's going to have a leaf of 7. And then we have 7 8/10, which is going to have a leaf of 8. And then we're going to move on to our stem of 8, where we have 8 2/10, and that's going to have a leaf of 2. Then we have 8 and 4/10, which is going to have a leaf of 4. Then we have 8 and 7/10, which is going to have a leaf of 7. Then we have 8 and 8/10, which is going to have a leaf of 8. And then we're going to move on to our stem of 9, where our first data point is 9 and 3/10. So we're going to have a leaf of 3. And then for our last data point here of 9 and 7/10, we're going to have a leaf of 7. So now that we've listed our leaves in order from least to greatest, we're ready to go ahead and move on to step number 4. So for step number 4, we're going to add our title and answer key, and that's just to help make this a little easier to understand because right now this stem and leaf plot could be anything. So we're going to write our title up top, which is our math test scores. So we're going to write math test scores. And that test was out of 10, so we're also going to include that just to add a bit more context. And we need to make sure that we add our answer key as well so that the average person reading this will understand what each one of these data points means. And we already did this earlier with our example of 8 and 4/10, so we're going to go ahead and use that exact same example. So we have our key, and then we have 8, and then a line, and 4, which is equal to 8 and 4/10. So as you can see with that last step here of adding a title and an answer key, it makes it a little easier for the average reader to read because they're going to understand now what each one of these data points means. So hopefully by now you understand how to create a stem and leaf plot with decimals. Help make math less complicated by smashing those like and subscribe buttons. As always, enjoy today's math journey.